Adam, what a privilege. This is um, this is a little bit scary for me because I admire your writing so much. I mean, I was actually just earlier this morning peeling tomatillos over the sink, and I kind of go blank in my head when I have these monotonous tasks. And I was wondering, what does Adam do when he's doing monotonous tasks in the kitchen or the yard? Because in my mind, I imagine you have these worlds that you visit.
No, I love monotonous tasks. Like for me, stuffing envelopes. Like I remember working on like someone's political drive and it was like $80,000 of stuff. I'm like, just fantastic. I don't know why. It's like a Zen shutdown of the system. No, I love it. No,
Really?
no extra thoughts there.
Wow. So, okay, so you're not building stories and thinking about your
No,
characters. When your
no.
fingertips hit the keyboard, that's when your writing world opens up.
That and weirdly in the middle of the night. When I
Mm.
wake up in the middle of the night, um, I can't go back to bed. I'll start having an idea, and then I'll go, oh, I gotta go write it down. I gotta write it down. And am I gonna wake up Melanie? So like I sneak into the bathroom with the phone. I'm like tap tap tap. Then I go back to bed, and then 10 seconds later, it's another idea. Um, they're not good ideas. They're just ideas that I'm afraid I won't remember anything. So I guess in the middle of the night, and I don't know, rewriting and rewriting stuff,
Mhm.
finding things.
Are you a bit of an insomniac then?
More than I used to be. I mean, one of the things about
Mm.
age is it's just like sleeping gets trickier, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that we have that out of the way, that I know
The,
that
the
you
rest
go
of it were
blank.
home clear.
We both go blank in our heads. This
Yeah.
is a good thing. Okay. So I want to first just, I want to begin with you reading an excerpt. We have a little treat today because Adam's going to read a few different things for us. But my introduction to your work was through this beautiful series, memoir series that you wrote about your family, mother, your father, and sort of this unfolding of your own understanding of your childhood. It was called Scheherazade, and I felt like these specific relationships to your mother and your father, those really grabbed me. And in the opening chapter of Scheherazade, your mother curls up on your bed with you to read her childhood copy of the Arabian Nights. And I'd love for you to read to us because I'm imagining a little bit of your mother might even be speaking through you as you share this with us. Can you open that?
I can. I can. Um, Now, you had a longer piece to read here. Do you mind if I cut it in the middle of it and just give a quick context on it? Um, you,
Absolutely.
you, you've given most of it, but
Yeah.
um, there was a lot of chaos in my family. And
Mhm.
so, story time when you had a parent really focused on you directly was special. Um, anyway, so yes, I'm in bed. I'm 5 years old. I'm reassembling my childhood as much as you can as an adult. And she's reading Tales of the Arabian Nights, up until Ali Baba. Open sesame, the swarthy, hawk eyed captain cries out, and the great wall of rock opens of itself. The rock opens of itself, says my mother with significance. I'm aware there's a lesson here. She's reading with the reflective, reverential cadence of a pastor approaching his main point, his holy ground. The rock opens of itself, she repeats. She parcels out each syllable this time. She's not honoring the story now, but its language. And through my mother's repetition and my own submission, I'm vulnerable to the love of words, of her words, of the sound of her words, of their curious mixture. I'm as supple as a tiger cub in its mother's mouth. My mother releases her fingertips from my neck. Her hand retreats to the pages of the storybook. She adopts a fresh cadence and tone, shifting from aria to recitativo. Story time is over. The tiger releases her cub and turns away. The cub must follow the fine trail of language on its own.
Ugh. I mean, I love your mother. I can't imagine anybody reading that and not wanting to curl up with the two of you on your bed and be read to like that. It's
Um,
just remarkable. So I want to ask you, when your mother read to you, what shifted in your heart? What awoke in you?
well, it's interesting looking back. I think there's two things going on. There's the obvious. It's a mom and it's a child and it's story time and focus and there's tenderness there. But there's another piece of this which is really important in Scheherazade, which is about language and words and families. A lot of it's about how my parents, how important books and literature and words and what you said and what you wrote, how much it meant to them, and how that has transferred into my own life. It's not the only thing it's about, but it's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things in there is also just about the mystery of language opening up, that words really matter. There's a whole layer on top of a story itself, what they sound like. And that's a gift. That's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love writing, right? I wouldn't love it if I didn't, I think, grow up in that environment.
Yeah. The rock opens of itself. Now, when you were 5 years old, did you visualize a rock? I mean, what did that mean to you then?
Well, this two things. One is yes, the rock sliding open is huge. I might have also seen it in a movie somewhere.
Mm.
It might have like been in some Sinbad movie, or maybe it's just like Batman with the Batcave opening.
Yeah.
But yes, the open, the kind of the gesture and the opening. Um, but the words there I just made up. I mean, I just created Alibaba. I have no idea what her copy of it sounded like. But that I think that the beauty of a character, coming in on a wild horse and saying all this stuff is very appealing to me.
Yeah, and in a way, I mean, maybe I'm totally reading into this, but it feels like in a way your mom is telling you that it's your job to discover who you are, what's on the inside. The way that she pauses on that, and that someday young Adam will grow into adult Adam and open who he is from within. I don't know.
Yeah, she was extremely independent. She's kind of amazing in a lot of ways. She's a very challenging person to be your mom, but um, she was brilliant and really strong vision, and in many ways a very successful career. But I think for her, some of that was also that her kids would go, figure it out.
Mm,
But I know that I remember being in like fifth or sixth grade and reading the Hardy Boys, and that was
yeah.
just like, why are you reading the Hardy Boys? I
Really?
remember it was looked down on, and I loved them, man. I could have read left to right on that shelf, and I remember the snobbery in that, But for her, it was like, hey, there's more beautiful things out there. Why don't you read those? But for me, it was just the pleasure of whatever their names were and
Yeah.
their stories. I don't know if I'd
Well,
like them now, but that's part of her way, both my parents' way of looking at language. There's
yeah.
better language and there's worse, and be on the right team.
She had high expectations of you.
She had high standards. I think around both my parents are kind of intellectuals, and I think if you're like that, you want your children to meet that bar. I don't
Yeah.
think I did actually meet that bar, but I
Mm.
have my own thing.
Well, so your dad, let's switch over to your dad a little bit because, well, everybody has inner demons. Your dad revealed them more through his writing. Similar to my own father, there was a lot of wrestling going on inside. And reflecting on your dad and sort of honoring the complexity of his inner life, you wrote something beautiful in Scheherazade, the love letters. Do you have that little section that starts, but now his most beautiful qualities?
Yeah. Um, so I wonder if there's a context here. I, I think a key piece is my dad was not someone who ever like looked forward to having children. It wasn't like
Mm.
It wasn't part of his dream of himself. And yet when he had kids, when he had my brother and I, it like blew his mind. It was, I would say it was kind of the best thing that ever happened to him in a way. Um, so here I'm talking about that in this excerpt. But now his most beautiful qualities were sneaking in from behind and around and below like vines. They were flowering up, pulling on his leg, asking to be picked up, looking at him directly and without guile, love itself moving only inches from his face, pulling off his glasses and laughing, patting his bald head, making the days beautiful with soft smiles and clever children's thoughts. His having children was not just an opportunity for him to love his children, it was an opportunity for him to love himself. Life had, in its own time, and rather effortlessly, outsmarted him.
Wow. Would he agree with that? Would he, I mean, would he, if he could read what you just wrote and read to us, would he agree with what you shared, that life had outsmarted him?
I really don't know. He was a, I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know if he would. He didn't always recognize things other people said. Oh, my dad's name was Barry. Oh,
Hmm.
Barry, you're this or that, and everyone in the room would think, "Oh, God, you absolutely are. You're that," and he'd be like, "Oh, I just don't know." So he would agree how much he loved his children. He was effusive about us, which is very odd because really about nothing else in his life was he like that. So
Hmm. I guess I asked because I'm wondering, sometimes we can see these things in other people because they reflect something within ourselves. And I'm wondering, do you feel like life is outsmarting you in a way?
no, I don't live. I have a few choice regrets, like I wish I hadn't done that,
Hmm.
but much wood. I I think my life is unfolded exactly how I would want a life to unfold. You know, um, I love my family. I've been married for 30 years. We're happy together. My children are beautiful. It's like I like my work. Um, I love my writing. So what it's like.
Yeah, what more?
We've taken a lot of boxes here. You know,
But that surprises
yeah,
me though, Adam, because you also are able to express terrible pain in your writing. So there's a you have both. I'm not, you're not just skirting around on rainbows. Like you definitely go there. And
I can
so
go
could your
there.
dad, because I read, one of the letters that he wrote. What do you think it is about writing that creates this kind of safety when, for your father in life, it wasn't perhaps as easy to hold both? But do you feel like the writing allows you to kind of go there, even on the surface, your life is quite lovely, and your dreams have come true in many ways.
Well, just the first thing is about that you talk about is some of the darker stuff in my writing. I'm not saying because I how I'm happy with my life. There aren't a million things I'm afraid of or
Mm.
that aren't going right. I'm just saying like the way my life is unfolded, I don't want it to have been otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be 25 again. I don't want to be 30 again. I want to be 7 again. I've done those, so that doesn't mean there aren't lots of very rough things and things that I'm frightened of, and a lot of stuff that you're probably thinking of that I write are things that cause me great anxiety, and so I'm working them out on the paper. But what was the second part of the question about
Well,
writing?
I'm
Can you share
actually,
that?
yeah. Well, you just sort of started talking about that. Do you feel like the writing actually creates a safe place for you to work that out, work some of those mm, more difficult emotions out?
Yeah, they're they're not demons. If that word was coming to your mind, I don't think of the challenging things in my life that way.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't. I'm no fan of myself. I'm like I've learned to tolerate myself. Like, okay, yeah, that's who I am. I don't know if anybody runs around and goes, gosh, I'm so glad I'm me. So I don't have that, but there is kind of an acceptance. And I think that gets better as you get older. And um, I think it gets easier as you get older.
Hmm.
But when I write, I get to be my best self.
Mm.
Um, this is not my best self. I love talking to people in conversation, but when I'm writing and I'm really connected, um, I feel like something good is happening.
Hmm.
Um, Even if it's writing about scary things. And God, if you don't know me, what are you going to think of this? If we have a gift to give, for me, whether it's only four people get it or not, I feel like the gift I have to give is something that happens when I'm writing between me and the page that somebody else might feel that same way.
Yes.
That they go, "Oh, I know that place." And that's a connection that's possible for me on the page with other people that's enormously valuable to me.
It okay, well, I'm going to raise my hand because I am one of those people and I know you have more than four readers. You Okay, well, let's talk about fourth pip because this is the one
Okay.
that just jumped into my mind as you were saying that. Um, this serialized story, which should be a novel. I mean, to me, it feels like it could go on and on. The characters are so alive.
Nice. Yeah.
Humor, mystery, play, compassion, pain, shame. Um, your characters have energy, and I know that's just such a blanket term, but I really mean that. Like, they come alive, they buzz off the page, and they live still. I read fourth pip months ago, and they're still, these characters are still running around kind of
Yeah.
like ghosts in my yard. um I want to talk to you about your character development, but let's open so that everyone else can
Sure.
kind of jump on board with this
Sure.
fabulous story. We were talking about the bulldog in part five.
Yeah. Again, really, really quick context.
Yeah.
Context. Um, a girl. It it's light. It's comic serious. And a girl discovers on Christmas Eve she's given this record set. K-Tel Records. If you're kind of my age, used to know there's big sets, K-Tel Records, and they would show you on the TV scrolling every song you're going to get. So she got one for K-Tel soul hits of like the early 70s. And it was like the best thing. She had a little record player and playing. So she goes up to her room and something pretty amazing happens. She finds out that she can sing exactly like the singers on the records. Um, but there's a twist, and we'll get to it. All right. But everyone knew she was called the bully because of her nose. Oh, her age. She's probably 13.
Mhm.
But everyone knew she was called the bully because of her nose. It was flattened back into her face almost vertically, like a bulldog's nose. Her sister described it unhelpfully. "It's not my fault your nostrils look like black beans growing fur on their backs." So the bulldog knew what it was to be irredeemably unattractive. Because of it, she spent long hours of her childhood looking in her mirror with the broken light bulbs. Not because she was searching for beauty that she knew wasn't there. She spent hours looking in the mirror so that at some point, eventually, she wouldn't care anymore. She told her mirror she was tearing off the band aids, and she tore them off one afternoon at a time. She would grimace and distort her face and hoist her shoulders up and down like she was silently having a tantrum. She made herself as ugly as she could, and then she stared into those horrible faces until she got used to them. The two of them were unwrapping the mummy, she explained to her mirror, and little by little her plan worked. She could say the bully and then the bulldog out loud to the mirror, and eventually she could say the worst word of all, the one under both of those words, and she could say it with her mean laugh. It was like becoming a comic book villain. It had never occurred to her until the Christmas Eve of the K-Tel records that the mirror might have something to say too. And that evening she heard the mirror for the first time. The mirror's beautiful but terrible secret for her was this. When she pumped her entire body up and down like she was having a tantrum, and she scrunched her face into the splitting image of ugliness, and she shook her body like something spastic was going terribly wrong with her during this transformation into a comic book villain, only then would her beautiful voice appear. The trick was to sing at exactly the same time she was making herself ugly. For whatever reason, she had to be ugly to be beautiful.
Just love that. I love that. And I love the image. I mean, I have to ask, did you or your kids or your wife ever try to do, like, did you mimic her at some point? I mean, I almost want to
Oh,
see a
did I
family Christmas
did I
card with
do?
everybody.
No. I was tempted to do it a little bit while reading, but it's so distracting that I
Yeah.
won't. It's better you kind of picture it. And that's a big thing in the story, like her shame around,
Yeah.
she has the voice of Gladys Knight,
Yeah.
and her shame around being herself, but having to be so ugly for
Mm-hmm.
other people. Um,
Yeah. Well, I
and it
mean,
was
if
a
you're,
tension I loved in it. It was a
yeah,
character I loved, right? So,
in anything that I work on in Unfixed, to me, if there was a common thread, it's always that there's the paradox, there's the tension of opposites, there's the pain and there's the joy, and there's the ugliness and there's the beauty. And to me, that is where we can really touch into the heart of another, when we can see both sides. And I wanted to ask you if, clearly that is part of a lot of your characters. Is that an element that you try to consciously bring in when you're developing a character, or is there something even more essential that you try to develop in them for this life to happen?
I I don't know how actively I think about what I'm going to do to develop a character. Um, it's more like as things come in, I go, well, not that, not that, not that. Ooh, that. Um, I knew the end of the story has her being fully accepted by other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the second like that idea dropped in, that these other characters would bring her into their world, it was like, oh yeah, there it is, that right there. That I didn't have to 3 a.m. I wouldn't need to write that down because I go, okay, that will happen. And I mean, I think a lot. I plan a lot when I write, but the things that are the best just show up. It's fishing. You go out and you fish every day, and if you do it enough, you get some stuff in the boat.
Yeah.
Um,
I imagine you observe your kids a lot too. You express a deep, deep love for your children, and for anyone that wants to go back and read some of those, they're just extraordinary. Um, what was the one title that you wrote for your daughter? It's called Chicago, Your Little One.
Little one, yeah, from a song
Uh,
by Chicago.
yeah, your little one. This just, well, I wrote to you that left a dad-sized hole in my heart. um, I imagine as your children were growing up, you saw the tension of opposites in them developing, from sweet little bundles of joy to angst, teenage angst. Do you feel like some of your character study came from just quiet observation of them? You have a you have a remarkable ability to hold the ugliness and the beauty together in your characters, and I don't think that's a natural human quality. So I guess I'm asking, where did that come from?
So I remember, I actually think I do have a little insight into this. I remember at one point trying to become the great writer observer. This lasted a couple weeks, and like, okay, look around you in the coffee shop and write down all the things you notice. And I mean, it was interesting. I definitely noticed more things than if I hadn't done it. But I think what I really do is I think I've always been. Oh, I hate this word. I'm fairly sensitive to things that are going on emotionally around me. This might be part of being a
Mm.
child of an alcoholic or in an alcoholic family. We have to be so wired in. But all those little impressions that are felt, that is what's coming back out. That is the
Mm.
study is that. It's a life of little feelings, little anxieties, love, something um,
Mm.
that's what's under all of the work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, because your tagline, I don't know if I haven't looked in a while, but it says feel something, or it used to say feel something. Does it still say that? on your
It
Substack
does,
or
and
bio?
I have very complicated feelings around that. First of all, I'm going to say the obvious. It's so easy to read that as like this incredibly precious thing, like, oh, feel something. Fuck you. I'll feel what I want and when I want. All right. So I know, and I know that if you don't know me, that's a very legitimate place to end up. I get it. But it is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I want people who read me to feel what I have the privilege of feeling when I write it. Now, I may not do that. The writing may not help them get there.
Hmm.
But when I am writing, I am definitely feeling something, or I wouldn't
Oh
do
yeah.
it. I don't get up at 5 a.m. to become a writer. I could care less
Yeah.
about becoming a writer. I get up so that I can
Oh,
lock into the page and get excited and feel something. And then if I create that, I want to go out and share it with somebody so that they do.
yeah.
Um, I have strong opinions on politics. I'm not at bringing those to the site. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
fascinating to me. Just in light of what you just shared about being a little kid and a child of alcoholic parent, and the ability of you to pick up all the nuances of emotion that were happening, and in a way, maybe they saved you. And so, as an adult, you're doing the same for us. Like, hey, here's a character. I want you to feel something about this person. Here's complex set of emotions that this person's experiencing. I want you to feel something about that. And
yeah.
it's kind of like the little guy, little Adam, is still processing the world through your writing. I don't know.
Certainly not untrue. I just enjoy it flowing through me. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
think there's a cost to that, but
What's the cost?
well, I had a challenging childhood, and there's cost to everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I yeah. I could I don't want to talk about the cost to
You
me
don't
again.
have to get into
Um,
the cost. There's just a
um,
cost, period.
yeah, there's a cost, of course. Whatever we are,
Mhm.
there's pros and cons on it.
Yeah.
But I always notice that, and for people who have this in their lives, people that were children of alcoholics or drug users that have a very intense childhood, and mine could have been much more intense than it was, but
Mhm.
it's like they always have almost a spidey sense of what's going on around them. They can feel it, they know who's not in a good mood, they know why, they know what this means, they know what this is escape zone, this is like know who to worry about. I think because that's on all the time, one of the weird life benefits of all that is pretty locked into people.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know, by the way, that my kids have. I don't think anyone in my family has that same kind of thing that I do, because basically every grew up in a really
Yeah.
happy family.
They didn't need it to feel
They
safe.
didn't need it. They didn't need it, right?
Yeah. Isn't that
I hope I'm not
fascinating?
upsetting my kids if they watch this and go, "Yes, they do have spidey sense." Do
Oh,
you
Dad.
know what it was like living with you, Dad?
Exactly. I'll interview your son and daughter next. We'll get the
Yeah.
backstory
No, don't do that. Yeah.
on it. Okay. Um, let's talk about death because this is so fun. I really want to dive into this. You have such a I appreciate the way that you've handled the dark side of life, the heavier aspects of life, and death is no stranger to you as well. You tackle it in the Gondolier, Moby. I'm naming these so that people can go back and read them, and I will hyperlink them so everybody can. The Snowfield, Finisterre. You in the Snowfield almost comedically lead us into the staging of one's own death, which I actually have been thinking about lately a lot. This idea of being able to choose when we die. Um, but then you come back and kick us in the face with part two, where you ingest fear, anger, longing, hope, and then finally, of course, beauty. And I'm just going to read this one little couple sentences. You hold out a hope that my mad dog will be my companion in the snowfields of surrender, that he will be with me in my final moments, in the dimming half light in the cold. and having seen me safely home, that he will take his leave and wander off into eternity. I want to know what you mean by your mad dog companion.
A couple things to lead up to that. You're right. The humorous part is a little bit of, if you're a baseball fan, a change up before a fastball, right? It's like, oh, this thing is fun. It was very interesting publishing that in two pieces
Yeah.
and seeing, thinking, huh, wait, wait till part two. Um, but my parents both died in their late 60s. I'll be 59 in a few months. They
Young.
died at 67 and 68. So certainly that affects my thinking uh, about dying. But the mad dog, I am 100% certain that I will be difficult, self pitying, angry, impossible, unreasonable when I'm expiring. If I have cancer, one, I've seen it. One, I've seen. It's hard. It's hard, particularly with cancer. It's hard dying of cancer. It's hard dying of a lot of things, but that's certainly a bad one.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't expect any, like, it's not going to be like Mother Teresa going out. It's going to be like, I say in that, like, the nurses don't want to come into my room. Will you take it? Will you take the bell? Um, he's upset again, right? So
Yeah.
I know that me, and I expect that me to show up. But years ago, there was this crash of a plane crash in Sioux City, Iowa. You've seen this. You've seen this. Like, the company
Mm-hmm.
to do 2020 on, and the
Mm-hmm.
plane is in flames and it's cartwheeling, and it's just a total disaster. I think everybody didn't die. I think half the people on the plane died, but it was like on 2020 or something. They were doing a thing about it, and two of the people that lived said when they were warned that they're going to crash, oh god, this totally chokes me up. Strangers held hands across the aisle and they said, "It's been a good life." That to me is the mad dog wandering off in eternity.
Mm.
And I wish that for everybody, and I certainly wish it for myself. That's at the end, I would just like to be that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, all right, here we go. Yeah,
Yeah. But damn, here we go. But damn, here we go. Because in a way, it's been a good life. And
it was okay. It was more than
yeah.
okay. It was
Yeah.
good. It was it was it was grand. The word grand means a lot to me.
Mm.
I don't particularly like people. I don't think we're that likable. We do horrible
No, we're
things.
not.
There's so much to not like about us. If the other animals had to vote, we're definitely one of the lower percentiles. Okay, they're
Absolutely.
like, oh, the ones with no hair, the two leggers. Um, but we have a capacity for being incredibly grand.
Mm-hmm.
There's something big that shows up with us about how sometimes with how we relate to the world that's captivating. And I think the people holding a can across the aisle is. I think what happens in the gondolier is, where we're bigger than ourselves, and it's grand. It's and I'm very interested in that. And of course, death is a chance to challenge that. What's there? How do you meet that
Yeah.
from that place?
I want you to read something from the gondolier. Before you do, I just wanted to share something. Um, my dad died when he was 49 in a car accident, and well, and just recently I've been counting the days. It was 49 and 6 months and a day, and in 14 days I will have passed his date
Wow.
of life, and I'm fucking scared. Like, there's a part of me that is like, every night I go to bed and I'm like, phew, I made it. And I've obviously been touched by death early on in my life because of his death, but it's up for me right now because I feel this time in the next 2 weeks of like, ooh, what if I don't pass his date?
Yeah.
And even had, and I'm not trying to like create scary moments for myself, but I even have had a few weirdly close calls in the last week that I'm like, Deb, I'm not ready to go either. I have that mad dog with me. And because his life is so fucking beautiful. And I need to squeeze it more and more and more. So I
Is
feel
is it a
that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Is it is it the anxiety of a superstition, or is it something else in there?
It's both. I'm not a very superstitious person, but this is one I'm kind of, and I remember my brother visited it too. He's 3 years older than me. Something about having this larger than life father disappear like that
Yeah.
at such a young age makes us feel like, well, how could we possibly pass that?
Yeah.
So it's bringing something up that is largely superstitious, and I'm gonna be fine. I really feel it, but I think it's just bringing the conversation up in my mind more. Like, whoa, this is impermanent. This
Yeah.
experience is impermanent, and I don't have any control over it. Um, and that's perfect segue because you and Gondolier talk about that agency. I have like a little, rock in my throat even as we talk about it. Um, this story changed me. If everyone's listening, if you have not read Gondolier, stop this interview right now and go back and read it and then pick it up. um, the secret of. Would you want to do the backstory, or should you want me to?
Uh,
You do it
I'll
better.
I'll say right now, I don't know if I can get through it.
I can't either. So
I don't know if I can get through it, and I'm not sure how willing I am to sit here up on the ropes the whole time. If I don't get, maybe I'll just get through it with her just fine.
yeah.
It's right on the nerve for me,
Mhm.
um, and um, but I'll try.
Okay.
The There is some context needed here. Big picture, there's an astronaut who has to be deployed into space. You know, they don't get a lot of say in it. You picked your names, you have to go. But the dates that he's up there coincide with a his daughter's appearance in the high school senior year of ballet that she's been looking forward to since she was. I'm never going to get through this. I just I can feel where this is going. Enjoy this, everybody. You're gonna watch me. You're gonna watch me. This is what
Oh.
I'm like when I'm writing. You might as well see it. Um, he Since four, she's wanted to do this, and she's very willful, and she's set her mind about it, and she's the lead, and the lead is the gondolier. And in this scene, he's just told her, dropping her off at ballet, that he will not be able to go. Oh, we're never going to get through this. All right. So here we go. So they're having an argument. That might make it clear. She is really unhappy and hurt. She doesn't get out of the car. They pull over um, before she gets out, kind of off to the drive, and they're talking through it. All right. Without looking at him, she has said she would have to tell him the gondolier's secret since he wouldn't be there for the performance. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to tell you this. The gondolier's secret. From the very beginning of this ballet school, they know that before the lead character goes out, the gondolier, somebody whispers something to her. She's told the gondolier's secret. And nobody ever knows that. You don't know what it is, and only the gondolier knows. And people who've been the gondolier each year and like the head of the ballet school. And it's just like one of those little dreams that everybody in the program knows about. All right. Without looking at him, she said she would have to tell him the gondolier's secret since he wouldn't be there for the performance. The gondolier's secret isn't really a secret anymore. Everybody knows it, she said. Do you already know it? She asked suddenly, turning to him for the first time. No, I have no idea, he said. It's about the gondoliers. They aren't who you think. They aren't all about American tourists and honeymooners. Someone is going to come up to me in the wings and talk to me before I go on. They'll say that the Venetians used to use the gondolas to bury their dead out on the islands. There was nowhere to put bodies in the city because the city was sinking. So the gondoliers were the ones that paddled the dead out to the islands. That's where the gondolier is going. They're basically driving hearses. There were coffins inside the boats. She looked away from the car for a second. The gondolier isn't about romance at all, really. Well, it is and it isn't. She gathered her composure. The idea is that the teachers tell you before you go on so you feel what you're dancing in your heart. His daughter looked away from him for a minute. She still didn't get out of the car. I can't believe you're not going to be there. I'm going to be mad at you for a long time, you know. She turned and stared right at him, and she shook her head up and down so he understood she wasn't kidding. Anyway, I have to go. I really don't know why they call it Belle Nuit. I do, Mikhail said.
And that's not the final image.
No, this is not the final image.
That's not the final image, but that takes us to it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Should I give it away for our listeners?
Don't give it away.
Okay, okay.
I think I already gave too much away there, but
But so without giving it away, I want to know how you, because your characters do this, access agency in helpless situations.
well, this story starts in talk about fear and stuff. The idea of being the basic premise, and you know this within a page or two, is that an astronaut floats away from a ship. I was thinking about this yesterday with the civilians in spacewalking. And he floats away from his ship, and they are not rescuing him. There's nobody coming, man. He is just floating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, that's just, I mean, for all of us, it's terrifying, right? What could be horror, pure horror. And so everything from there is trying to crawl out of a very black hole. And what would that be? And what would that look like? And could you do it? Could you say there, it's been a good life, and hold that in your heart?
Mm-hmm.
Could you do it? I couldn't do it, but I think somebody could do it. And that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I figured it out. Then writing it, I figured it out. I wouldn't have written it if it was just slide into the void and horror, right?
Yeah.
I like horror, but not horror that I'm not a sadist.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Is it part of it is, it seems like the dark night turning into the Belle Nuit is the beautiful night. Is it partly perspective? Because to be able to reach across the aisle and hold hands is the perspective of it's been a beautiful night, not just the horror of the moment. Is that part of how we access agency?
I think agency is about connection,
Mm.
and I don't think you just say to yourself, "It's been a good life." I think you say to another that it's been a good life,
Mm.
and that's what Gondolier is about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, when I say things are grand, I don't know if I'm really getting at the sense of grand, but grand of epic human scale and sensitivity. That's what Mikhail finds. He finds connection and purpose.
Yeah.
He knows that the whole world knows he's floating off into space. Believe me, right now, if one of those civilians was floating off into space, we would not be talking about our election.
No.
We would be there. Um,
Mm.
and it's a big shift between this is a horror and who can I be with the whole world watching me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Who can I be for
Yeah,
my family? Who can I be for everyone?
I see. So do
And the
you think
last,
are you saying that if he didn't have the whole world watching him, he might not have his
no,
last.
he would have done exactly what he did for the main reason that he did it. And I can't say anymore without giving
Yeah.
it away.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a sense that we're all in that boat together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if you say did it for the whole world watching, that has a kind of heroic view, and I think it's nobler than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, it isn't because he's a hotshot quarterback. It's because he sees the shared fear and vulnerability and maybe terror that we all have, and in
Yeah.
some ways is modeling something big for us.
Yes. Yes.
He's modeling.
That's heroic. That's heroic with a
Yeah,
capital H. That's
yeah,
grand with a capital G.
yeah. And he's certainly modeling it for his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um,
it's like Barbara Walters. You asking me questions, and the interviewee is breaking into tears, and he can't read his work. And anyway, that's me. I mean, yeah, probably anything you need to know about me, you just figured it out right here. Other than when I'm irritable and difficult and like a cancer patient.
I'm so glad that you were willing to go there, Adam, because this is why I like to do these. We can get into the craft and we did but to me, I want to know like what is that driving force that gets you to keep telling stories? And you're to quote Charles Dickens and Ebenezer Scrooge, I wrote this down because I want to know what strange bit of undigested beef inspired you to write 100 stories over a period of 100 months. And that passion, that drive that's in you just continues. I don't think you probably could have done 1,000 stories in 1,000 months. Um,
We're running out of months. Can't believe. Um, so let's. This is, I've had some interesting sections to my life. Aside from my personal, my family life, I was an actor in the movies for a while, and I had that warts and all. And then I had my own business, um, and that was a huge chunk of my life. Writing is really, I've always written. I've written always, but it's just gone into the desk drawer. Here, you can hear where the writing used to live. That was where the writing lived. um, this is my third act. This is again where I feel like I contribute, and where I feel something that I'm leaving behind, something that's special. Nobody really cares whether I'm writing 100 stories or six or 1,000. There's a kind of athleticness about it of, look, I will swim across the English Channel, right?
Mhm.
But I like the structure and the discipline of that. I like big projects. I walked 1,000 miles, and I apparently like things with zeros. Um, but I'm telling myself, look, you have 100 stories to say it, capital I. If you live that long, this is what you're saying life is to you. And that's like having a mission. And
Yeah.
having a mission gives life something special. Um, I think about these stories a lot. Like, I obsess with them. I'll give you a little teaser. But anyway, who's listened this far,
Yeah.
we have a baseball story coming up that's pretty light because, frankly, I'm just killing everybody here. But there will be the last story of the first 10 will be called Marilyn. And it'll be
Mm.
about Marilyn Monroe, and it'll be about loving women. So,
Oh.
and a crazy thing, the Howl. I don't know if you read Howl, but
Yes.
in
Oh, you
Howl,
got. I loved Howl, but
okay,
I
it
won't read your critique of it because I loved it too
it's
much.
yeah, I don't even know what I think about it anymore. But in Howell, the mom is reading Life magazine the week after Marilyn Monroe dies. I was 2 days ago, Friday, yeah, I was going off to the gym, and on the street here in New York, someone's selling old magazines. This magazine's from 1962. And there on the side is Memories of Marilyn, Life magazine. I'm like, so I said to the guy, I can't take this into the gym. I said, look, can you set this aside? I'll come back and get it.
Yeah.
So like I'm like in the woo, woo, something's supposed to happen here. It's not, by the way, it's a slightly different issue. It's a commemorative issue. It's just the picture's the same. Doesn't matter. So I was reading though. I took it home, and I don't have any great connection to Marilyn Monroe, but took it home and I was just looking at these beautiful pictures of her and seeing, for me, projecting onto her, both a distrust in her doing a woman to the world, and then also thinking about what's behind that and the loneliness of what's behind that. And then I was thought about what it would be as a man to connect to that. Yeah. And so that'll be story number 10. Yeah. That's all I know is that saw a magazine on the street, and I know the story is called Marilyn. After that, that's
well, and that, because in Howell there is the mother very much identifies with sort of that veneer.
Yeah, with the veneer. That's exactly right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The baseball story is called The Knuckleball Artist, though. It is not deep. It's just I hope it's entertaining.
Well, that's what I love about the 100 Stories is because you go everywhere. I mean, you even wrote a story out of emojis. And I was shocked to see that people could even reply in emojis. That takes some mad skills.
I loved it that people replied in emojis. That was great. None of us knew what the hell we were saying to each other. And we could have been spraying out random emojis, but it was really fun.
Yeah. Well, I think Chloe actually, I believe that she sat down and deliberately, what did she write, Genesis or something?
She added another story. My book was, I did 3 stories from Genesis and emojis.
That's right.
And then I think she added another one. She added Technicolor Code.
Joseph and the Technicolor.
Joseph, yes, yeah. We're adding a little musicals from the 70s, but yeah. So she did that, and they're taken away. Jews are taken into Egypt, and then they're freed, and there's prophecies and dreams. She took a hard one. She did a hard one. I'm like garden, tree, apple, snake.
So, do you have anything coming up? I mean, I know you have more stories coming up, but I also noticed that you started another project, and we've just got a couple minutes left, and I wanted to make sure I address anything that's up for you right now that we can support.
Oh, well, this is kind of a thing for everybody. Yes, I just started something called Best Words, Best Order, which is a quote from Coleridge. Forgetting, but basically poetry is the best words in the best order. So the point of this is that I want people who've written very beautiful pieces of work on Substack to just read those, like 1-minute snippets of what they've written, but nominated by someone else. So it isn't like, oh, go send your stuff, but people sending in beautiful work, saying why they loved it, and then finding ones that probably most resonate with me, and then having that writer read them. So if you look for best words, best stories, and I would love. Have you nominated anyone?
I did. I nominated.
You did, right? Yeah.
Jonathan Foster, and
okay, that's right.
List of other people, and it reminds me of, we both follow Nina Schuler, who I'll be interviewing in a couple of weeks. I'm excited to talk with her. But she does, the very
stunning
analytic,
sentences.
Of stunning sentences.
But you saw I did her this morning, so she's the first out of the gate.
Yes, I'm excited. I have saw it, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
I love that people are going to be reading it. That added element of hearing someone's voice reading a sentence, even just hearing you today read and joke through your beautiful excerpts took it to another level.
It'll be a pleasure. Having that happen. Yeah. Although my subscriber count has gone down since I put it out, so I do not
What?
understand subscribers and
You
Substack.
can't watch
I
that
give
shit.
up.
It sucks because you are. I'll close with just praising you because you truly do have a gift to offer people. I'm overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed writing the questions for this interview because you have such a volume of work that has changed me. And I don't say that lightly. So you do have a gift. And anybody that's unsubscribing from that it's their loss, truly.
It's not. Look, you know what? Nobody's for everybody, and what I love is the people that do like me and their comments and that. I didn't have any. I probably had 10 people read me until I was 57 years old. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
there would be no third act without people reading and
Yeah.
embracing my work. So
Could we
they're the hand across the aisle for me. Yeah.
yes. Could we see a collection someday just so that
Yeah, so I will as soon as I've got 100 stories. I think I'm going to bundle each 10. So I
oh
think
good.
hopefully before Christmas, everybody will be behind this. I'll sell 7 copies of something that cost me $3,000 to bundle. Uh, Welcome to self publishing. I will bundle up the first 10,
Awesome.
hopefully in November, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Adam, this has been so fun. I can't wait to continue to read everything that you offer and just thank you for just going there with the depths that are in you.
Well, Kimberly, your work is so deep and so connected. I feel like I know your little elementary school self. I think I said that to you before, and I thought I don't think you really get how much I think I know who you are. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think so. Your lightning rod connected too. It's an honor to be. It's a joy. Forget honor. It's a joy to be able to talk about my work with you, with someone I instinctively trust and
Mm,
appreciate. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
All right.